This is literally going to be the quickest video about the female cycle. Being in the sport of jiu-jitsu, being surrounded by males, you just don't get the same validation. Also, you can't comment if you do not have a vagina. Credit to you if you're a male and you've actually clicked on this video. I actually appreciate you so much because it could help you if you have a female friend, or if you have a partner, have a girlfriend, or if you're just a female in general wanting to be validated, because it is very hard, especially training with the cycle and trying to adapt to mental and physical things that occur across the month. And I also just wanted a little bit of a moan, I'm not gonna lie, and I wanted to validate myself because it's fucking tough, especially being in jiu-jitsu and being surrounded by men all the time that don't understand. And I often think we're fucking gaslighted about it, I'm not gonna lie. I think it's just lack of knowledge as a whole, and it's not very nice for people to just say like, oh, just train, or kind of what's wrong with you. And it's like, it's not me that's the problem, trust me. I wish like I was functioning optimally across the whole month. So first of all, I'll go through the strength physical differences that I experience. This of course is everything in my experience, and I'm only speaking from my experiences. The research is lacking, but there's a lot of conflicting stuff. It's not being researched that much in terms of what actually occurs. I know that generally this is what, in my experience, this is what happens to me. You can make up your own mind, and I don't want to say this is facts about what happens for everyone. Everyone is different. The time of bleeding across a month is on day 1. It can be 5 to 7 or even shorter than that, depends on the person. But day 1 and 2 are like the worst. So even training, our energy level is going to be low. We're bleeding out of our vagina. I'd love for some men to experience that. So yeah, training on day 1 or day 2, it doesn't feel good, but also we are actually starting to feel a bit better around this time. And this is the time, the first 2 weeks of the cycle are actually when we feel our most strongest, once that initial day 1 and 2 is over with. So not only are we feeling better in ourselves, but also our strength should be up in the first 2 weeks. We shouldn't really have a problem with energy levels, and this is kind of when we're doing the most work. We get an extra gym session in there, try and make the most of these elevated energy levels, and the rounds in jiu-jitsu are just great. No problems. This is where we will be hitting personal bests in the gym, etc. And then day 14 is when we are most fertile, the midway through the cycle. Around day 14 we ovulate. It depends how long your cycle is as to when you ovulate, so it might not actually be on day 14. Around this time we're feeling good, we're feeling social, and we're fairly social the 14 days before that, I would say. From day 14 onwards, my energy levels drop. I can't lift as much. I'm not sure about anyone else. My ex-client used to say the same as well. We used to be so clumsy and more prone to injury after day 14. So if you think about this in terms of jiu-jitsu, it's just not the one. I do actually think this is down to mental functioning, having a bit of brain fog. On to the mental aspect. Honestly, me and my client used to talk about it, and I try and not be negative about it because it is amazing that the female body can actually produce a baby, but mentally you feel as a female that you're only mentally sane for about 1 week of the cycle, 1 week of the 4 weeks of the month. I think we need a little bit of compassion. Day 1 to 2 you feel like shit because you're in pain, but then also hormones have just changed, feel a little bit better in yourself in comparison to week 4. So the start of your period means that there's an increase in estrogen. After day 14, an increase in progesterone and a decrease in estrogen. Personally for me, I feel okay, pretty social in terms of day 1 to day 14. This is obviously around the time that you need to be careful if you're not actually wanting to have a baby. Ovulation around day 14, and because sperm can live inside up to 5 days. That is so technical. I mean, yeah. Sex drive will be higher. Around this time we have a great mood, we're more social, maybe more conversational. I know I certainly am. On day 14, or not on day 14, I would say personally around day 17, I think there's a hormonal switch. So I'd say like obviously day 1 and 2, and then around day 4 to 8, there's another shift as we go towards ovulation. 13 and 14 are like peak days for me. Around day 17, the emotions start to change again, the sad time. This is a time where we're more unpredictable, a little bit moody. I think it's so important to not shame people for the emotions that they're having around this time. You need to emotionally regulate yourself, but also I think it's so difficult, and shaming people for the moods that they're in and stuff is just not helping the situation. Like, these moods and emotions are perfectly normal, and I think people should be asking, is there anything that I can do to make you feel better, instead of shaming people and pulling away because someone's in a mood. You don't know where they're at in the cycle, which can create a huge impact. Maybe some people don't actually know what goes on throughout the cycle, and I think it's so important to adapt your training specifically to how you're feeling towards the end of my cycle. I try not to go crazy in roles because 1, I have no energy, 2, I'm more prone to injury, more likely to burn out. It's so important to still maintain exercise around that time because I think that's one important factor that is going to actually lift your mood around that time. Not that you can't just, flop on the sofa and relax, more to say that I use it as a method. So yeah, it was just a short video to enlighten people that maybe don't know about it, but also continue to validate those that do know about it, and also just make maybe men, if you've actually watched it, which I'm super grateful for if you have, that if you can literally just ask your girlfriend or your female friend, is there anything that I can do for you right now? If you know where they're at in the cycle, not that you particularly would, but just some compassion would be nice instead of like the ignorance in terms of how we're feeling in our bodies when it's actually genuinely a thing and not our fault. Also, Brits trying to be on weight at the end of your cycle, which then also made me come on because I stopped eating calories for like 2 days, which was my own fault because being an intuitive eater, I just kind of refuse and hate to reduce my calories now. But I do feel like I perform better at under 69, so completely my own fault, but it's just an insight into having to make weight and then also being a little bit heavier when at that time of your cycle. Like for example, you are actually meant to weigh yourself and compare each week with your weight and not like 1 week with the next week, because it is not a fair judgment because of our cycles. But from a performance point of view, in terms of how I perform, even in competition, it's obviously very minor. My comprehension of jiu-jitsu and my reaction times are definitely a lot lower when I'm due on or after ovulation. I always feel like I've made progress and I'm kind of at peak performance around day 14 when my energy levels are highest. Also, if you are making weight for a competition in jiu-jitsu and you are towards the end of your cycle, you are going to be eating more food because in reality your body actually thinks that it's preparing for pregnancy, but when you come on your period it realizes that you're not pregnant, and then you actually start to eat a little bit less calories from day 1 to 14. But from day 14 to day 28 or however long your cycle is, you generally eat a couple more calories and you probably crave chocolate. That's why you've got to make sure that you're putting effort and focus into eating good food so that you're not just jumping on chocolate for the full 2 weeks. I hope you've enjoyed it. Put your thoughts below. Any questions or queries that you have around training female cycle, or just you want to share your thoughts in general, because I think we need to talk about it more. I hope it was informational or you just feel a little bit more validated, and yeah, speak soon.